Okay, we'll bring the September 7th City Council work meeting to order. Is there a motion on tonight's agenda?
Make a motion to approve of tonight's agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made second. Discussion. Hearing none. To motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 3, zoning text amendments.
So since the adoption of the 2040 comp plan, city staff's been working on amendments to the zoning code to ensure compliance with the comp plan. Majority of the amendments are minor in nature, however, there are some that warrant some discussion by city council. I attached the draft changes to your packet, and at this time, I'm just suggesting that we just go from page to page just to discuss the changes. Again, some of them are minor, some of them may require a little bit more lengthy discussion. And then as part of it too, city council is asked to review the attached zoning map, and we'll also have one placed up here for you to look at and to provide direction as to what properties that should be included in the Coon Lake zoning district. So what I recommend again is just go page by page, and as we go to the page, council members give me their feedback or ask questions
Okay.
as we go through it.
So before we start, you, I assume the red text underlined is new text.
Yes,
And obviously the strikeout is things to be removed.
correct.
What does the highlight mean?
The highlight was some things that staff thought may require some additional discussion. And some of it I went through today and decided that we don't need to do any discussion with it, so I'll let you know when we get to that part.
So,
There was some of it that we were questioning ourselves. You know, what does this mean? Is this the correct way to do it? And through further research, some of it can
okay.
be.
So the base document is our existing,
Yes, yep.
is our existing ordinances, okay.
Yep.
So with that, I think we just go page by page, and then if there's a question by anyone, and then it has, if there's anything additional that staff hasn't marked too, we can bring this up too. This
Yes.
is the time to do that, so. So page, I'll just go by our packet numbers, which is page 3 is the first page where it's got markups, and that's the highlight. Is there something there you want to talk about with the
There-
licensed residential care facilities?
There is not on that one.
Okay. Anything else, anything on page 3 for everyone? Anyone?
Isn't that repeated again? Let's see, it's number 34 under,
Well, this is
this
definitions.
is definitions,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Sorry,
it'll
it
be,
is
yeah, it'll be
repeated, yeah.
further in there again. So next page is 4, where you're adding the text for non-residential uses.
Yes, and the reason why we're doing that is it's highlighted in other areas of this code that you have before you as it refers to non-residential uses. As staff, we get a lot of calls from people out there saying, what's a non-residential use? And so we just thought defining it may be good. So there's a clear definition of it, so everybody's defining it the same way.
Okay, any questions by anyone there? Okay, next page. Bottom of page 5 of our packet, there's just a new reference there, it looks like.
Yeah, it was just,
The semi-tractors.
yep, just defining it as Minnesota statutes defines it.
Okay, then on to the next page, you got the same thing on top. Then you got sidewall height.
Yeah, and this is already in our ordinance. It's defined in the R1 district. But again, we need to have it defined in our definitions too, because there are a lot of people, residents and staff actually, who miss how we measure a sidewall height. So we're just moving this also into definitions.
Yeah,
Well, and I have a,
I was gonna say, I know in past planning sessions that we've had the discussion, what exactly is the sidewall height, because there could be numerous different ways to measure.
well, and I'm wondering if we don't define ceiling member too, because that came up in planning also. Is the ceiling member that's under the eave, is a ceiling member a joist? What is a ceiling member as we define
Yeah,
it?
because what I recall from years ago, that height was measured to the eave, to the bottom of the eave. Is that the same thing as the ceiling member?
Yeah,
I
good
don't know.
question.
Myself, I would interpret this as an interior measurement from the floor to the bottom of the truss or sheetrock, if the ceiling is sheetrocked.
That's my understanding of it as
So,
well.
so we may want to include the height of wall as measured in the interior, or as measured from the interior floor surface to the underside of a truss or ceiling covering.
Yeah,
I agree, that makes it clear.
makes it a lot clearer.
My question is that different than the eve measurement that we used to do?
Typically not. I mean, it's a horse apiece, really. The eaves can come down a little bit farther, but usually your truss extends out and over your sidewall,
Okay.
and your soffit is,
Your soffit
Bill-
is the same thing.
your soffit is built. You could have a 6 or 8 inch soffit that is built down because you have your frame of your truss that you box in, and so the truss comes back, so it could be that much farther down.
Okay. Well, I like this.
Depending on how you
I
build
like
it.
this definition, but it's much clearer.
Yeah.
It's much clearer, so.
Yeah, because we've had that discussion many times in planning on
Yeah,
where that's measured.
yeah, I
And
don't
in
know how
And
much it,
staff we do too as well, you know, building and stuff would, again, what's a ceiling member?
yeah. I mean,
Even the building staff asks that.
I think, I mean, it's clear
Yeah.
with your changes. I like the changes you made too.
it's clear for measuring that way as long as, say, you are building your accessory structure on one course of block. You have your concrete floor and
Oh, yeah,
your
you force it
trusses.
up, yeah.
If you would say lower it in the ground and you, well, still that would, yeah, it would still be equal measurement from the interior, because I was thinking the exterior, if it's, you could build up a half wall with concrete block and have retaining wall coming off it, or not retaining wall, but say if the opposite of a split level house, where you'd have, if you say build it into a wall, into a hill, and so you'd have grade come around it, but that would still give you the same
Okay.
interior measurement.
So we're gonna change it with Brian's suggestions?
The interior floor surface to the underside of the truss.
Truss or
Or-
ceiling covering.
Yep. Ceiling covering.
Much clearer.
Yeah, that definitely helps us as well, so.
I suppose you could just call it the truss depending on,
I would say truss.
Yeah.
Don't mess with the
yeah,
sheet rock and everything else, so.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
then on page 7, truck terminal.
And so our transportation motor freight terminal and our truck and motor freight terminal are similar.
Can you say that again?
The transportation motor freight terminal and the truck or motor freight terminal, we have two definitions for the same use.
Oh,
Makes sense. And I'm trying to think back, so, with the truck or motor freight terminal, the one that's crossed out, we have the loading dock facility, allowing truck freight operators to redistribute loads of their trucks. So, for example, when Pana Gold came in, they could have fit in this definition, or they could have fit under the distribution, definition. I mean, there was just a very slight change in it, and so we thought if we don't, put the whole loading dock facility in there and just have it just as the building or area, like we've already have it defined. Does that make sense? So we have two different definitions for the same thing.
Okay, well, I agree, you need to eliminate one of them, so.
I like the transportation motor freight terminal. It's broader, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Is it the one that's crossed out? you mean?
No, the transportation
Oh,
motor
okay.
freight terminal up above.
I don't see any issues with it.
What about truck semi-trailer? Why is that crossed off? What am I missing? Because there's
Well,
another definition of truck.
definition up above, I believe. That was on page 4.
Oh, a semi up there, okay.
That's my assumption.
Semi-trailer, okay, as
Yes,
defined by
yes.
Minnesota
Yeah,
statutes,
right.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else there? Okay, keep moving. So slight change on page 8.
So this is the one with the switching it from building to public works. For section 4, we're on the right one, the same one? Yeah.
So why would Public Works,
They do right now. They approve the, if there's culverts and stuff involved, they do the improvements. They do the approval of the permits for that. So this isn't for new construction. If there's a brand-new house coming in a subdivision, we don't give permits for those. But if somebody came in and said they needed a second driveway, and
yeah,
they need culverts and stuff, that's all done through Public Works and not the building department.
It's done through the right-of-way permit for the driveways.
but I thought planning had to approve second driveways.
No, we
Because that's come before council before, I know.
Yeah, so, the application will come through us, but then it's given to Nate through Public Works and he signs off on everything. Sometimes Craig has to get involved depending on what it is, cause it's really involves the right-of-way permit and then culverts. And so they need to check everything out, make sure everything's okay.
Well, I understand the check on it, but is it the only approval, or is community development approve it as well?
We approve it as well, yep, but they do the,
If it's this would be a variance if it's a second driveway, so then it would come before planning commission.
yes,
Okay,
Yes.
That's what I thought.
yes, yep. This is just if everything follows code, it just comes through and, it comes through community development, but it's approved by Public Works.
Well, then my concern is, I admit how I misinterpreted the statement. It made it sound like that's the only process for that permit. If someone just looked at this section of the. Can we just say require additional approval?
Yeah, yeah.
So at least it indicates there's other approvals that are needed, so.
Okay, so approval. So cross out Public Works?
No, I think keep that. I would just add between require and approval,
Condition.
require additional approval.
Oh, okay, yep, all right.
Or also, shall also require approval. One of the two. Do we agree? I hear no disagreement. Okay,
Can you read what you're gonna put, Stephanie, because I'm feeling like, it's not making sense. At first it made sense, and then where, the mayor said to put it, it doesn't make sense.
So we can do access onto any local street, city street shall also require approval of the Public Works Department. Or we can do it as access onto any local city street shall require additional approval of the Public Works Department.
Okay, I just may have misunderstood. I thought he was trying to say that additionally, if a variance is required or something like that, it may require the planning commission too. That's what I thought he was trying to say.
Well, I just want to make it clear that that statement isn't misinterpreted, that that's the only approval they need. So that's why having the additional or the also
Oh, okay,
indicates that
okay,
that's just like one of the steps.
okay.
I like the also,
I wasn't
Okay.
quite understanding the
shall also require approval.
Okay.
Oh,
planning commission part.
reading it, should actually be access onto any local city street shall be, permit shall be submitted to the building department and approved by Public Works.
But actually, it's not submitted to the building department, it's submitted to community development.
Yeah.
What Stephanie's saying, if I interpret right, you take that application, make sure Public Works is okay with it,
You sign
get
off
their
on it.
approval, and then it's still, if the ultimate approval still comes through staff.
Correct.
If it's a cut and dried and nothing that needs
Yeah.
some kind of
Yeah.
additional.
So I'd say also it means it's part of the process, so. I don't know what,
I don't know what was on
I don't know
top
what
of
this
that.
even, that state items, and actually there's a typo here too, is you get two Bs under that. B is conditional use and you get B state.
Well, but that's different. I think it's two different
Mm,
two different definitions. Because the top one is undisturbed soil contour, and then it goes, so this must be roads or something.
no, you gotta go up.
Yeah.
Page up.
To page 5.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole
There's
different.
something
There's a
missing
whole
here.
page missing in there.
Yeah, so this is, if you go on the top of the page, it says what section of the code it's from. So these pages don't follow each other.
Nope.
This is just
So this
from,
is just an excerpt?
yes, yep.
Okay. I thought we had a full thing.
Nope.
Okay. So we're done with that.
And then the next page is really just adding in the mixed use districts. We don't have that added in our code.
Okay.
And then also the Coon Lake district.
The only thing I think you should put in parentheses after MXU, mixed use, and CLR, Coon Lake residential, I honestly couldn't figure out what CLR was.
I think we're gonna do it as CL anyway, but, yeah, and then if we do that, then to be consistent, we should be naming all of the districts.
Can we just put MXU and CLR in definitions?
Or put it as a note on the bottom of the page or something.
Well, then
Because
we're-
the thing is, people are gonna go, what does this mean? And it's gonna probably be a phone call rather than a look it up.
It'd be the same as the R1 and R2
Right.
and RR.
B1, B2.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just a zoning designation.
Yeah.
I understand the point you're trying to make, but all this has traditionally already been in abbreviations.
Well, and I think that's
Yeah.
what's confusing too, is we don't have the whole document that has the definitions of these districts, so.
Right, which are in the back.
It's at the very bottom. It's at the back page. It is there.
The mixed use isn't, because that one was already approved back on March 8th of this year. You guys approved those regulations of MXU, the mixed use district. We just didn't add the mixed use information in the rest of the code where we should have. But the Coon Lake district regulations are part of your packet at the very back, since that's a whole new zoning district.
Okay. We good there? Okay.
And then And this was just something that was suggested by another staff person, taking out the expiration of CUPs and IUPs. We can leave this in, it's just a staff recommendation.
Well, my
It's-
question was, what happens if we don't define what an expiration is on a CUP or a?
Right, and my next thought on that, you know, if we do keep this, which I do think that we need to keep the expiration, but just break it into two different paragraphs. It's kind of lengthy, but just do a CUP expiration and how it works, how it runs with the land and stuff, and then with the IUP separate.
Or break it into two different definitions, CUP expiration and then
Yes.
IUP
Yeah.
expiration.
Yep.
That would make more sense since they are technically different.
I agree.
Okay.
And the
A few
next
small
one-
minor things.
Yep,
one is
again,
the
adding
mixed.
mixed-use district
Mixed again.
and the Coon Lake district. And this is just for applications, procedures on sending out notices for publications, public hearings. So again, two of the districts that weren't part of our code.
Okay.
And then the next page, it's the same thing. Under H, again, we just had to add the mixed use and CL district.
Just that one.
On this one, I'm curious as to why the jump from 10 to 50.
Yeah, that's the next thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about. Just as a 10% rule, it seems as businesses just doing the 10% addition under their building need to come in for full site plan review by planning commission and city council. And staff was just wondering about upping that a little bit, because 10% isn't much on an existing building.
50 seems high, though.
Yeah, and we just threw out a number,
okay.
but, you know, would city council entertain the idea of upping a little bit more than 10%?
We probably don't have this information, but what is the average if somebody's doing something? Let's take Northway. What did Northway add to theirs? I can't remember. 30%?
Yeah,
At least
there's-
30% Northwood did,
Yeah.
30?
Yeah.
at least.
That's the last one that comes to mind. that
And
we
then
did.
aggressives was.
Aggressive hydraulics.
That was a big one, but that one didn't have to come in because that was pre-approved when they came in for their first site plan.
Mm.
Back in the day, that
Yeah.
was on their site plan and that was part of it. So otherwise, they would have had to come in for a site plan
Now,
review.
the aggressive expansion is 60%.
60%?
Yeah, that's big.
It seems like there's a number there, but I don't know that 50 is the number.
And it kind of depends on the size of the building, because if it's a 50,000 square foot building, 10% is a lot. But if it's a 1,800 square foot building, it's nothing.
Right.
I agree with that. I mean, so the 50 is just an arbitrary number we came up with?
Yeah, we just put that in there.
But no matter what, they would still, whether it's 10 or 50, they would still have to get building permits and go through that approval process, correct?
They do, yes, and they have to go through engineering, drainage calculations, all of that. They still have
So
to go through those.
everything still is being reviewed, it's just not,
Right, it's just not coming through council.
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not comfortable with 50%. And that's,
No,
that's
Call
big.
it 30,
I would say 25.
I was saying 25. makes sense as a
25.
number.
25.
25%.
a quarter of the building, no matter what size, if they're gonna increase it a quarter of its size.
That seems reasonable.
That seems reasonable to me. Suzanne?
I agree.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
And that takes into account the size of the building, it's just,
The next one, the next page, again, adding the Coon Lake District, our new district.
Why delete the conditional use?
I'm not
Statement.
sure why that's in there. I think that's actually a mistake. It should be still in there. I didn't notice that one.
All right.
Okay, so the next one, the highlighted area, this was just because it's conflict with, if you turn the page, and it conflicts with 10, so on the top of your page, you'll say section 10, general development regulations. 10-33, residential accessory buildings greater than 1,000 square feet. Or maybe it just needs to be reworded so it's a little bit more clear.
So I'm not following why you think this is.
Well, so if we go to 33, so go to the section 10-33.
Yeah,
B, it says no additional curb cuts to the public street shall be permitted. However, our code does allow for 2 driveways in the rural residential and ag district. So I would suggest adding that no additional curb cuts to the public street shall be permitted in the R1, R2, and CL districts. Because we already are allowing them in the RR and ag. So you just have to
okay.
clean that up.
So
And
you're making a
then
change to the item B.
Item B.
so 33
So-
is for the over 1,000 feet.
Square feet, and this
And
is for,
Item L doesn't define, but we did come across this where they had a building and they had no garage in it, and they were using the whole accessory building as their home occupancy, which I think a lot of people do.
Well, I think what's confusing with that one is if they already have a garage, why are we requiring them to
Have garage
mark off
space.
400 square feet in the accessory structure if the accessory structure is meant to be the home occupation business? I don't know why we'd force that if they already have a garage structure. Is that the intent?
that's what I think, yes, yes.
So that's the intent, but that's not what it says.
So it needs to be defined if a garage is not,
Well, I think it just needs. The first sentence is confusing. Can you go back to that, Jack? The area set aside.
13.
I don't know how you exceeded total. No, you gotta keep going up. Right, that one.
there.
The first sentence, shall not exceed the total accessory structure space.
And then a minimum of 400 square feet of space shall be maintained as a residential garage. And I think when I was talking to the building official, we were saying, so what's our requirement is what, a 20 by 20 garage? I believe that's our requirements.
Minimum?
At minimum, so that's how many square
That's
feet?
400.
400 square feet. So if somebody has an attached garage to their house and they only have the 400 square feet, they have to maintain that whole space for parking and they can't have any other home occupation in there.
I'd kinda ask why can't they?
I don't know how they can, that's my question.
Right.
If it's their choice to park in their driveway
Driveway.
and use their entire garage as a home occupation, I guess that'd be their choice.
But-
They would still have to follow parking ordinances.
But I think the point is that
We're
theoretically,
requiring,
we want them to park inside the garage, you know, because they have garage space.
Mhm.
You know, don't take your garage space away and use it for your business, you know? I mean, I know there's one house in the city that boxed up their garage and used it for a bedroom and don't have a garage. And it's an attached garage, and that's what it was.
Mhm.
oh, there's a few of those.
And they just park outside, but that's the whole idea, now they don't have a garage.
Then that's their choice, I guess. But if they do that, then they should also have to follow the parking requirements of so many vehicles and parking spots outside.
But is this any different than somebody who uses their garage for storage and parks their car outside?
Well, I understand that, but we're not, we don't, the city doesn't regulate that, this
No.
is home occupation business, so. I mean, the idea is a home occupation business doesn't impinge on the neighborhood or feeling. And if kicking out the cars out of their garage and their snowmobiles and everything else onto the driveway so they use the garage, well, it's not within the spirit of why we're allowing it, so. I think that statement's just cumbersome.
Yeah. It was just something I wanted council to take a look at.
Yeah, why don't you see if you can come up with some different language for that. Okay, and the car wash,
Okay, this one, my question on this was that it's an accessory use. And I do know that most cities, car washes are conditional uses, and we just do them as accessory uses. With my experience in the past working in a city where we have dealt with car washes, the conditional use helped because car washes, a lot of times the gas stations will be located in areas that are close to residential areas, and some car washes can be very loud and cumbersome to the residential areas, so we were able to put conditions on that. It was just something that I wanted to bring up to see if you'd be interested in.
So the car washes themselves would require additional approval.
Yeah, if somebody wanted a car wash, then it'd be a conditional use permit. And then also with it, right now, our car washes are only allowed in the B2 and the B3 district. And wondering about the thought of adding it to the industrial district as well.
where do we allow gas stations? What districts?
All over, they're in all of our districts, so
We
how?
don't allow gas stations residential district.
No, not in residential, but a gas station could be put in an industrial district. But according to our code, they could have a gas station in an industrial district, but they couldn't have a car wash with it. The way that our code reads.
Oh, we should probably change that then.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
well, our current code says it's an accessory use already, or is this,
Accessory use only in the two districts that you stated, correct?
Yes, yep. So it's
So
permitted
you
in the
wanna add
B1.
industrial,
Yes, to allow a car wash also in the industrial.
mixed use?
Mixed use, and that's another thing too.
That's
I
another
mean,
thing.
it's,
Mixed use, it would have to add.
you know,
what section, because we don't have a full thing, what section of the code is this?
This is, it's under general development regulations, motor vehicle service stations.
But then item 26 is a motor vehicle wash.
Yes, so if you were to have a car wash, then yeah, then you have to have, you know, those requirements to it as well. So that was my big thing, is just thinking about that, is it's permitted as an accessory use in B2 and B3. It's a permitted use in the B1, but in the industrial districts, you couldn't have a car wash. You could have a gas station, but you couldn't have a car wash, the way our code reads.
Well, firstly, I think the easy thing to say is where we allow a gas station, we can allow a car wash.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see a reason why we wouldn't.
Right.
And I also agree with having it as a conditional use. It's worthwhile having that additional review if it is in a noise sensitive area for some reason, so.
So could we change the language?
I mean, you also got a lot of vehicles idling all the time too, so if it's, there's a potential conflict there too, so.
Could we change the language to state something about, in whatever zoning district, gas stations are allowed, car washes would be allowed with them, with a conditional use permit. So that wouldn't necessarily define the different zoning districts, but.
Right. I mean,
It,
let the definition of the gas station
Be the definition of
define where the car wash facilities can be.
Okay, so you're saying adding the definition of because we have a definition for a motor vehicle service station, then put in there too, as they're allowed car wash?
Well, I didn't say change the definition, it's just in terms of identifying where the car washes are allowed, what districts,
Okay.
it would be the same as the gas stations.
Oh, okay, yes.
So wherever, so I think if you make it a conditional use, a car wash is a conditional use to a gas station, I think you kind of solve that.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
Then we don't have to define anything else because it's already defined with the gas stations.
so that's good. Just thinking though, there are some independent car washes that are just car washes. Like up in Cambridge, they have,
That is my next question,
The
so how
one-
do you deal with that, so.
yeah, how would we deal with that?
And
So
that's
we
the
need-
one I was involved in a different city, is we had one of those come in and it was very loud on the residential areas that were behind it.
Yeah,
And
Those
so there was a
blowers are
lot of
horrible.
Complaints and, yeah, cause they're loud, it's just a
and
whole
those,
different, it's a whole different
there's
beast.
a lot more of those standalone car washes popping up.
Yes,
So could we come up with I suppose in the definitions, define standalone car wash,
we could do that, yeah.
and then write in a separate ordinance or code for, standalone car washes requiring conditional use permits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so under conditional use permit in those districts, I could put it down as car wash associated with a motor vehicle station, and then
Yep.
I'll look and see how the other cities define the standalone ones as a conditional use permit as well.
Yeah. It's,
I mean, if we make it a conditional use, it's allowed.
Yep.
It's allowed in those
Just
districts, we
conditions.
just gotta put conditions on it, so. Look at Mounds View, because
Okay.
Mounds View just put one up on Old 10,
Okay,
and I'm pretty sure it's residential right behind it.
okay.
It's one of those new ones, I forgot what it's called, but it's like within the last year.
Blaine's got one too. Blaine's got 2 on 65, but that's,
Yeah, what Coon Rapids is too, and there's a.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of popping up, they're all, like they're all steel frame and glass, there's not a lot of building to them, so.
Okay.
and they have those big blowers, and then the vacuums are outside and they're going constantly. One other point on that, Stephanie, on number 26, under motor vehicle wash, number A and number C are the same.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Thank you.
They really wanted that emphasized.
That's very important.
I figured that was the point, but I just read it like 5
Save
times and
space.
went, they're the same.
Okay. Anything else in car washes? Places of worship.
All right, this is just a suggestion from staff too. Seems that, minimum lot area. Do we want to put a maximum lot area on the places of worship? Because, for example, we have the Buddhist temple, and that one is, say, 30 acres?
About that.
Something about like 30, 40 acres. And so according to our code, they can't
And why is
They
there-
cannot be a place of worship in the city of East Bethel because it's exceeds over 10 acres.
And then I don't even understand why there's a minimum of 1 acre, because if somebody has a house up in Whispering Aspens, and they want to start a church, and they start in their home before they find a place, that's a quarter of an eighth of an acre. And
Yeah.
So they're not allowed to
Yeah, but you have to have
Yeah.
parking.
That's what I was.
Parking is your issue, 'cause
Yeah.
you
If you're,
can't.
if you're gonna have an actual standalone, not something in your house, standalone building for a church or what have you, you're gonna have cars coming.
My guess on the maximum why that's in there, I think when it happened, was it Lionel Lakes? It went through or Hugo, when that really big church.
The mega church.
The mega churches, that's what the concern was.
Okay.
And
Uh-huh.
my
50
guess
acre
is,
mega
because I remember
churches.
having that discussion years ago at a council or planning, and I think that was probably why that was put in there. Whether it's right or not, right, I don't know, I'm just saying that's where I think it came from, so.
I don't think we can limit it. I mean,
Well, if we would want to have it in there, concern about mega churches, we could say at a maximum allowed area not to exceed 10 acres without a IUP.
Well, our Saviors
Yeah.
has more than 10 acres.
Yeah, they got
Mhm.
20, they
Yeah.
got, they got 4 lots, total they got 55 acres.
Yeah. And is that on a, how did that happen? Just because?
Well, there's 4
Four
different lots
lots.
that comprise the 55 acres.
Yeah,
But I think the main structure is on a lot that's about 20-some acres though.
and
I
that may have came in before this
Yeah.
ordinance too. Or right about
It
that
w-
time.
Yeah,
'Cause
definitely.
it's been there 15 years now, right? I think so.
Yeah, that's pretty close,
Thereabouts.
Early
or
2000s.
longer.
Yeah.
I don't have a
I'm,
problem
yeah, I'm
removing
fine
it.
with the deletion, I think we can deal with it if it comes out.
Yeah.
Cut. The bottom of this page,
We dealt with that, I just have to add in that no additional curb cuts will be allowed in the R1, R2, and CL districts. So the next page, we have section 10, general development regulations, and it says B, licensed residential care facility. Scrap what we had put in 10, and it will remain at 7.
so it's gonna stay at 7?
Yeah, yes, yeah. But question was, it talks about maybe located within medium density R2 or higher residential districts. This is just definitely different wording than anywhere else in your code with anything. We don't, in our code, define anything as a medium density. So we just put in the residential districts and R2 and higher. We don't know what R2 or higher is. So actually rewording and list the districts that they're allowed in.
So it's just, it's gonna require conditional use permit anywhere,
Anywhere, it does.
okay?
And that's why we thought of just taking it out and saying that it requires a conditional use permit.
I think that makes more sense.
And then on D, we're questioning this one as well. It says a facade facing the public right-of-way or roadway of the dwelling unit used for a residential care facility in the ag and residential district shall be maintained as a residential dwelling. Well, we have our one that's in there right now, Cambia, and their front facade does not look like a residential dwelling. And it'd be, the way we think of it as a residential dwelling, it'd be very difficult for these big facilities to have that front facade looking like a residential structure. So just striking out that. Because this, again, it'd be a conditional use permit, they're gonna come in for their site plan, architectural design,
Okay,
is gonna be looked at by city council. And then the other one that we're questioning on this is I. So residential care facilities shall not be closer than 1,000 feet to each other. And my question is that, limiting that is, way I look at it, it's almost saying that, okay, if we had, it's for example, like a nursing home and a memory care place that wanted to come and locate by each other, but on different lots, they couldn't because they're not 1,000 feet away from each other. So wondering, do we really want, does city council want to limit this to 1,000 feet from each other?
It would seem to me the reason it was put in there is more when the focus is on the small residential care facilities at the home ones.
Okay.
So, I agree, I mean, I don't think we want this to apply to larger facilities, because
But larger facilities don't.
They generally kind of are by each other, so.
Yeah, so what I can do is I can take a look at our definition and how we defined it, an actual residential care facility versus ones that a licensed residential care facility.
Yeah, because this,
Um,
this doesn't, this only serves 10 or 7 people, so it's never going to be a Cambio or never going to be a,
Oh, this is 7 or more. So
7
these are
or
licensed-
more, yeah.
7 or more facilities. So, yeah, so they wouldn't be the home care facilities.
I would think home care would be less than 7.
Yeah,
It's only allowed to have 6,
Up to
right?
Is that all it's
Correct.
allowed to
Yeah,
have?
Group homes allowed to have 6.
Yeah. So yeah, looking at it that way, then it would be any of those big facilities.
See, I agree with the group home ones, the smaller ones not being next to each other. The idea is not to have 3 of them in a row.
In a row.
And that
Right.
we can't regulate. That's basically.
What's that?
That we can't regulate those, anything under 6 and under, we can't regulate where those are.
Okay, so then that I really,
Makes no sense.
it doesn't apply, right?
Correct.
So we want to delete I.
It's fine.
Okay.
I have a question on E, with the court order referrals and treatment in lieu of incarceration without adequate security. What is adequate security? I mean, where does this definition?
That's why I wasn't sure. That's why I had
I think we
this,
delete that.
that's why I
Yeah,
had
I'm-
this whole
Because
area.
we say in other places that the facility can't hold court appointees, right? Thought we defined that somewhere else.
The juvenile was at the top, the adjudicated juveniles was at the top. But yeah, I don't know how you define
Yeah,
that or
we
how
don't find
you-
adequate.
Yeah. Nothing is totally
So
adequate.
delete
so-
without adequate security? Are you okay with that?
Yep,
So just without adequate security.
Yep.
Yeah, delete those
Yeah,
3
straight
words,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Okay, anything else there?
None from me.
Okay,
And then next page, section 13, again, just adding in
lost everything.
mixed use and Coon Lake. Just adding in our new zoning districts.
and it's gonna be CL, not CLR?
Yeah, CL.
Okay.
And then the following page, section 14, detached accessory structures down at the bottom. And this is a request by the building department to add or building fixtures. So the structure must not be designed or used for human habitation and must not contain sewage treatment facilities or plumbing fixtures. So what they're seeing out in the field is they'll go close out these accessory structures and they have plumbing fixtures in there, but they're not gonna do anything with them, and then suddenly, people are adding bathrooms and, septics.
Sewage
Down
treatment facilities and gray water, that's still considered sewage?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Should that read, instead of must not contain, must not be served by? The accessory structure
Yeah,
wouldn't contain the sewage treatment facilities themselves, but
I find that hard, because I know so many people would like to have
What's
a
this?
sink in their,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
in their
Right.
accessory building. But
Yeah.
that gray water is defined by,
Yeah.
as sewage.
So why can't you have running water and sewage
Yeah,
on
code,
a detached accessory building, because it's gotta be permitted, so it's attached to the septic and to the
right.
water system.
Right, and we could, they would definitely, I think what's happening is we don't allow it now, and a lot of people are putting them in there, and the building department doesn't know if their septic systems are compliant, or if they can actually tie into their septic systems. I think that's what the issue
But
is.
isn't that part of the review?
Yeah, but right now our code doesn't allow.
So if we allowed it, then
if
we
we
could
allowed
review
it'd
it
be-
and
it'd be
we
a whole
could,
different. Yeah, it'd be a
we
whole
could
different.
control it and allow it and
Right.
make them get the correct permits and tie in and,
Yes, that's what it would be.
man, accessory buildings, I know, I would like to have a sink and a toilet in mine. I
Oh,
mean,
I know.
that's,
Yeah.
that's just,
what
if
I'm
I'm gonna
missing from
spend that
mine,
kind of
so-
money,
That's just it, it's the money.
Yeah,
It's-
so that's the
I
problem.
think
It's
the,
a
the
safety
point
issue
of,
too. I mean, if you get some contaminant on you, you know, if you're working on something, painting or, you know, if
Yeah.
you're an artist and you're painting and you get some paint or, a chemical on you, you.
ethanol, anything.
The faster you can get it out, the
Acetone.
better off you are.
well, I think the point of having this language in there was the city did not want people
Living in it.
the
Yeah,
accessory
turning it
structure.
over into
Yeah.
housing,
Yeah.
so you eliminate the utilities,
Yes.
so.
So that was a point of not having it.
But could you run outside water to it? Could you run a hose bib to it? If you could run a hose bib to it, you could,
Well, it's the sewer that you need.
yeah.
The water's the easy part, well, sort of easy.
Yeah, and
I don't
then-
like this one.
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
You have
restricting it.
people, without a bathroom, you have people going outside and peeing outside. So that's not so cool either.
I don't like this one at all. But how do we word it?
I think you turn it around to say any structure that's planned or designed to have, you know, water and sewer needs to have the appropriate permits and if it's not a separate septic system, if they're tying into a septic system, then
Okay,
that whole design's gotta be reviewed as well.
okay.
And
Just like
general-
another
yeah.
room in a house.
And generally, with the septic systems, most of them are designed for a number of bedrooms. And anything you add additionally onto that is probably gonna require a modification either to the expansion of the tanks or the drain field itself,
Right.
so,
So if
Okay,
you're
so
looking
you're
at
s-
an accessory building, you're looking at septic and,
you know.
So you're
That
gonna tie it into
too.
the same one.
yeah, if you
Yeah, I
can't
mean,
tie
someone
it in, you
has-
have another tank.
Yeah, if they have the capacity in the septic
Mhm.
and they get all the permits and do it,
Okay.
I don't know why we wouldn't allow it, so.
Yeah, and we do have, I think you're right, back in the day, that was our intention with this, because I was here back then when we did this, is that people were putting it in and then they would put apartments in their garages and now.
Have a
but
loft.
Now, what we do with the building department is when people are building their accessory structures, we have them sign something saying that you are not gonna be putting an apartment in there,
Right,
and it's not for human habitation.
It
Well, and I
goes
think you
on.
can keep, it's not for human
Yeah.
habitation in the definition.
Yeah, but allow them to do the plumbing and stuff if they
yeah,
want
my
to.
last place had a, just a 3/4 bathroom in there or half bath, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's nice, you don't
Yep.
have to,
Makes a
especially in the
big
winter, you don't have to
difference.
run in the house.
Yep.
when you- it
Absolutely.
makes-
Okay,
You know, so it had running water and everything, so.
okay,
Yay!
perfect.
Now I'm jealous because I don't have it in my shop now.
Addition.
No, I can't.
You don't have a room.
Okay, next one.
So the next one is a bit confusing for staff. It has to do with the architectural design requirements for accessory structures. And what's happening is we're getting a lot of people who build accessory structures that have large lots. Say, for example, we had one that just came in and they had 40 acres and they put an accessory structure. It was so set back so far, surrounded by trees, can't see it from the road. You never will see it from a neighboring property, yet they're required to have all these upgrades to their accessory structure. you know, having to have windows and doors, and the, the property owner had an issue with that because he said, I'm in the middle of nowhere, I don't want extra windows in my accessory structure. Just for safety reasons, I have a lot of equipment in there that's expensive, I don't want extra doors. And so as staff, what do we do? Because we have this code that's saying that you need to have all of this. But at the same time, we completely understand with them, you know, what they're saying. You know, do we require people to have all the extra doors and the windows and?
I never understood that.
Well, I think it's, well, the intent is for the ones that are building them near their homes in the residential neighborhoods.
Right, yep,
And 2 acre
Which I
lots.
think we need to maintain,
yes,
the architectural similarities, so
Yep.
it doesn't look totally out of place.
right.
So do you define that in R1, R2, and mixed?
Or you could define it by acreage.
Or just say.
And not-
visible
well-
from to the road.
And what we've found hard with acreage too is because there are people out there that have, you know, 3 acres and it's wide open and they don't have a tree on there. And then there's people that have 3 acres and it's completely heavily wooded and you can't
Yep.
see in there.
But I was thinking more of like 10 acres,
Yeah.
10 or more acres
So,
could have a
So do we
exclusion.
does staff just try to work with something here and bring it back to city council on? I mean, we do have something in here a little bit saying if it's not visible from the public right of way. Maybe just play with the language a little bit, you know, if it is
Well, how
public right
how
away.
many of these come in?
a lot,
Okay,
yeah.
so it wouldn't be advisable to have them coming from council for approval or
No,
planning for approval. Okay.
we probably get a handful a week, Steve, during the summer. he's-
what's the, regarding this, what's the most common complaint?
Is the.
The windows or brick or,
The windows, I think is the windows, yeah.
and do we say how many windows there has to be?
No. People don't have any problem doing it the same color as their house that they have now. They understand that and,
No, we had to have those two architectural features facing the road, but it's all trees, so nobody can see it, and when you look out, all you see is tree trunks.
Well, I agree in those cases, but I think in most of the cases, these are vision, you know, they're-
Mhm.
you can
Because
see
they
them
have to
from
come off
neighboring
your
properties, so-
driveway.
I think it has to say visible from the public right of way. I think that's a good,
okay,
Yeah, I guess play with the language and bring it back.
okay.
But having windows on these buildings, you know, depending on how you do it, it could be a security issue, but for the most part, all it's doing is breaking up that big flat wall.
Right.
And it's an easy way to give an architectural feature to it, rather than having a steel building with no windows on it, you know, which a lot of people would probably prefer.
Definitely.
But we also, when we do these things, we think about the next owners and the next owners too, so. I
Well,
mean,
you give them the option though of doors or architectural features,
Right,
the
right.
brick, so they can come up with 2. It's not, windows are not,
Well, windows gonna be a lot cheaper than brick.
yeah.
windows are the cheapest thing you could do.
All right, we can play with the language and I
All
can
right.
bring it back, see what we come up with.
So the overhang,
That's something that the building department, thought, it was just an idea of.
I
them.
thought we already had that requirement for
Yeah.
overhang.
We don't,
I know we had it one time, because we had issues with the zero eve buildings,
Mhm.
so. So we allow zero eve buildings right now?
yes.
They made us do it. And ours is just,
You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
zero eaves?
Yep.
Yeah, those,
no, we had to have an overhang, so
Yeah.
it was required.
Mhm. So the building official suggested that, well, with one of the architectural features, could they do overhang? An overhang,
As
and-
one of
and that
the-
would be considered one of the architectural features rather than the.
yeah, I thought the minimum was 14 inches, but is it on housing? We got requirements
I
on
think it's
housing,
on
right?
housing, yes, but not on detached accessory structures.
Well, I agree with the overhang, so.
As a requirement or as a,
Well, the changes to, will include an overhang minimum of 12 inches. So, not the changes proposed, just that aspect of whatever
Okay.
changes staff's gonna come up with here. That be included, so.
All right, I'll come back with language. And then right below is just, the table below is just adding Coon Lake District to the maximum sidewall height. We didn't have that district in there. And if you turn the page, we have a whole area deleted, and that's because it's the same information that is addressed on the table that we just looked at on the previous page. So it's the same information.
Yep.
And the next page has to do with telecommunication facilities, allowing it also in the mixed-use district. On the next page, section 22, off-street parking and loading requirements, B. Again, adding the mixed-use district. Just stating that they can't store open storage goods, recreational vehicles and equipment in their parking lots. And then just adding the Coon Lake District for the prohibited parking.
Okay.
And then the next one, we have in residential districts, we just put residential districts. So it is in all the residential districts. Now this is where we need a little bit of discussion here. So right now,
Where are we at, Steph?
so we're on page, it's my page 23. So your
Okay.
top will be section 24, exterior storage.
Page
or
25.
So you guys are 25. Staff was talking a lot about this and wanted a little bit of clarification and some direction on city council with the parking of vehicles. So if you go down to the bottom of the page, we have B. So what's happening is, as you know, right now, our city code allows only 5 vehicles to be parked in the driveway. And that is very difficult for staff to enforce, because there are a lot of individuals who have, you know, you have your spouse and you, and if you have 3 kids that are driving, you can't have any other cars parked in your driveway. And so what we were considering is just taking out the 5 car, 5 motor vehicles, and just saying that everything has to be parked on a hard surface. So if you have 6 cars and they're on your driveway, you're okay.
Why?
Again, because we've had a lot of residents who will have a few kids that are driving, and they all have their own vehicles, and then you have your spouse's vehicles, and so
Work vehicle.
all of a sudden they have 5+ vehicles in their driveway, and now they're not compliant.
Well, I think I'm more focused on everything has to be on a designated driveway.
Yes.
Why?
Why?
Why can't it be on the grass?
So
or the
people
dirt
aren't
or-
parked in their yards, in their front yards, and otherwise, if we don't have a designated driveway, then people could park in their front yards or,
Well, I'm thinking, boats and trailers,
yeah, we have those.
and people generally not gonna use up a spot in their driveway for boats and trailers.
Yep,
but
and I
those in the
know
back.
we do have it where you can, I think we have it somewhere in here, I know about parking it on the side of your
The side of the garage.
your
It's in there
garage.
somewhere.
And then our code also allows them to park them in the rear yard as well. Also,
But B1 says vehicles stored outside must be parked on a designated driveway.
Yes, your motor vehicles, so your cars. And then it says a maximum of 5 of the following vehicles. So you can do your recreational vehicles, your boat and your trailers, your snowmobiles, those can be parked in your driveway or an outdoor storage area located in the side or rear yard. And that's how the code reads right now. So what this is, how we have it right here on the end of, or the bottom of this page, this is how our code is right now.
Okay,
Except we just broke it down, it was one just run-on paragraph. So we just broke it down so it's easier to follow.
so what's defined as motor vehicle? RVs are motor vehicle, right?
Yes,
So everything under
Anything that-
2 is
Boat and trailer's
defined.
motor vehicle.
a boat trailer? That I don't have that definition. This is what it is in code right now,
Okay,
so this isn't anything new.
so right now it says must be on a designated driveway.
Yes,
Or outdoor storage area located in a side or rear yard.
Well, 1 and 2 contradict each other. That's kind of my issue with that.
so your motor vehicles, I gotta look at our definition, but I don't have my code.
Well,
book.
RV is definitely a motor vehicle. There's
Yes.
No doubt about
Yeah.
that.
Construction equipment.
The trailers and all that I know are not considered motor vehicles, how our code
I mean, 'cause
defines
we
it.
got, there's folks that have single car driveways, and the only way to manage multiple vehicles is to park off the side of the driveway in the grass or gravel area or something.
Yep.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
common.
Yep,
I don't see why we have to micromanage this
Yeah.
to this extent.
well, again, this is what's in our code right now,
Yeah.
so this isn't changing at all.
I mean, it's an effort to deal with the issues when we have properties that have a lot of junk vehicles. And it's difficult to craft an ordinance that doesn't impinge on others that do it in a organized and respective way to their neighborhood, so.
Well, there's people who have 6 vehicles, but you'd never know they have 6 vehicles because they're lined up and nice and the RV goes in the back and whatever, but then there's others that they're all over the place.
For a lot of people, it's really not the number of vehicles they have, but the way they organize and park them that creates issues. You know, if you're neat with the way you store them, sometimes it's like Wanda says, it's not even noticeable. You know, you don't even give it a second thought. But, you know, too, with what Stephanie said with the kids, but also societal changes, you know, we're having more instances of children moving back home after they get out of college or they have a divorce. I know a couple people right now that have 2 grown kids that are living at home. So, you know, there's 4 vehicles to start out with. They have an RV, a boat, maybe one other thing would be considered, so.
Work vehicle.
Snowmobile
Yeah,
trailer, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's,
Everybody around here has at least one recreational vehicle of some type. I mean, that's just our nature.
Well, I'm sure the intention of this was to prevent having 12 junk cars.
yeah.
Well,
the
and where
junk
do we get to the
ones.
running,
Yeah,
Junk
I mean,
ones.
running and licensed?
Yeah, I think that's
Or
part of the
you have-
definition.
I think
They have
that's
to
the
be
definition.
Operable and licensed.
That is
Yeah.
in the definitions, so.
But
Operable
even-
and licensed.
Even with that, you could have 12 salvaged vehicles
Yeah.
that they may be running and licensed, but just barely.
I think you need to have a restriction. I just don't know what the right number is.
Yeah, to me, the problem with this is it's inadvertently affecting a lot of property that this isn't intended to address. Am I saying it right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So, you know, it's a lot of unintended consequence out of this. And I guess I would encourage to find a cleaner way of doing this. I mean, every community's gotta have this issue and must have, regulations and see how they handle it, so.
Okay.
And I'm not talking Blaine
Yeah.
and Spring Lake Park and stuff like that, something like us out in the rural.
And we had discussed this once before and thought about maybe trying to address it by acreage. Because, you go and look at our GIS and look at aerial photographs, and you see some people with larger lots, and they have nothing in their front yard. That if you drive by the road, you never see it, but you look at the aerial photograph and their backyard is full of a lot of stuff. And it may even be screened off from their neighbors, but the only people that can see it are them.
Right.
So, one consideration may be to base it on acreage. I don't know if that's a way to do it or not. Acreage is kind of a tough way to do it because you don't know who your neighbors, how close your neighbors are. You may have 40 acres, but you only have 2 acres that are actually usable too. But some of these larger lots and larger properties in the RR zone, that may be a way to address some of that.
I'll look and see how some of the areas that have urban areas and rural areas and see how they define it.
I mean, Elk River comes to mind,
Mm-hmm.
Stegall comes to mind.
Even Andover, because they're half
Andover's
rural.
still, yeah, they still got a lot of
Sandy.
rural.
Ramsey.
Yeah.
See what they do.
Yep, I'll take a look at that. So if we go to the next page too, this was something, staff talking about too. So now we have, the single family R1 and R2, and now we're gonna have the Coon Lake residential area. So we have potentially these urban lots that are gonna be smaller lots, 1/4 acres and less. How do we regulate how many, recreational vehicles, all-terrain vehicles, cars that they can have in their yards? Is it the same number as out in the rural residential area?
So we're got everything framed in mind. Viking Preserve, that's R1.
Yes. Yep.
So if we just consider item C there, that type of housing, or more dense, right?
Correct. Yep.
As
we have it served by sewer and water, because we know if it's gonna be served by sewer and water, it's gonna be those smaller lots anyways.
Cause I'm R1, but I'm not,
Right.
I'm,
Yep.
bigger acreage and
Yeah, so we
I
have
can
it
park a lot more.
unsewered versus sewered, because we do know, again, R1 and R2, if they're sewered, it's gonna be a small lot.
right. And that's
And-
the intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now, so do we give them the same, regulations as somebody that's out in the rural residential area? Or, someone with a
So your
much
neighborhood's
larger lot?
R1? Oh, yeah, I guess ours would be too. Okay.
So do we allow them the 5 and,
I think when you get into the townhome residential, I think there's gonna be some kind of requirements from the townhome.
yeah, they'll have associations.
They'll have associations that will require those things to be put away, so that might not be an issue, but
Right,
Well,
Viking Preserve,
go ahead.
if most of that is fenced, and those are they're small driveways too, really short driveways. You can only get one car back
Well, you
there.
can't even get a car in the backyard, the houses are so close, so you wouldn't think so, but. I don't have a problem with saying it being designated driveway.
Are we gonna
Like you
define
said,
a
if it's
designated,
sewered, like it says service
Sewered.
by sewer, so.
are we gonna define a designated driveway also as being able to have a parking pad next to your garage? I mean, we're talking about it up,
Is the idea
Yeah.
to be on a hard surface, or?
yeah, just a hard surface, and if they have the setback for it, typically if we
They'll
have
put the
people and they
gravel.
come in, if they wanna do the designated driveway on the side, they can, but they still have to meet that 5-foot setback from the property line.
Yeah, cause they still need a permit for that, right?
Yes,
Cause they got the, how much infiltration area and
Yes.
impervious area.
No, I don't have a problem with that.
so,
So C, I think C is fine.
Yeah, Coon Lake is a different world.
okay.
There's no way we're gonna be able to do that in the Coon Lake District.
Yeah, and was my question too, so then where do we lump the Coon Lake district? Because we have to have them somewhere as well.
They're parked all over the place, on the
Because,
street,
oh, you
on
got,
the
well, you got boats,
Mm-hmm.
you know, everyone's boats, you know,
snowmobiles,
and they
golf
put, they
carts.
put on the side yard, the front yard, whatever, so. I would just delete D, but that's my suggestion.
But we still have to put Coon Lake somewhere.
Do we put Coon Lake then up above in the other worded? No, we can't.
Yeah, why don't you just make it part of that? That makes more sense.
C,
Under B,
Under B,
under B.
put Coon Lake District in B.
Yeah, we could.
This Coon Lake District's not gonna be sewered, so.
Oh, with C as well, knowing Whispering Aspen, some of those lots are large. There are detached accessory structures out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are boats parked in the backyard. There are other trailers parked in the backyard because there is adequate space for it. The side yards are ample enough to get through. By restricting that, that could restrict a whole lot of stuff out as well. Even with some people that just have one trailer or one boat and they,
oh, you have sewer and water.
yes, we do.
Oh, yeah.
So, let me ask this, I mean, I'm struggling with this because, yeah, in our area, I mean, that's what everyone wants is to have their toys and be able to have this and be able to use their land. And so what's really driving this whole section of the ordinance of restricting a number of vehicles? Is it, because I know we've had a few over the years that have 20, 30 vehicles in our junk we've had to deal with, and it's taken forever.
Yeah.
The
and that's
ordinance
what it
isn't gonna
is.
stop that.
Right, and that's what it
The
is.
court couldn't even stop it at times, it's crazy.
Right. And that's what it is. Well, the first thing is that the 5-car limit rule, because some people have neighbors that call and complain because they have 7 cars in their driveway or 8 cars in their driveway. And even though they're parked nicely in that, the code says you can only have 5.
Well, so if we made
So-
it 8, they'd call and complain if there were
Or-
8.
Yeah, and that's
Or
why
if they're
we're more
dying.
saying,
Yeah.
you know, do we not put a limit on how many cars you can have in your driveway as long as they're parked there?
Well, the thing about having, for cars in a driveway, it's almost assuredly operable because
Right.
they have to move it to get the other cars out of the driveway. So whatever's in the driveway, it's not how I would do it, but you know, I don't know how that, it's the ones that have the junk cars spread out in their yards and don't do anything about it and are just storing cars. I don't think we have a tremendous problem in the city, but it happens.
Yeah, it happens. It's not a big
Yeah.
problem.
Instead of having an ordinance that addresses parking, or an ordinance that addresses parking that is restrictive, I'm sure we have an ordinance against junk cars.
Yes, we do.
So if we have an ordinance against junk cars and that will work for the junk car problem, but having a second ordinance to also address the junk car issue, if one ordinance isn't working, 2 isn't gonna work.
Yep, and almost every case that comes up goes to litigation anyway, so it's.
Right.
Well, and it's beyond, you have 6 cars,
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's gotten to
It's an
where it's a
egregious problem
disaster.
usually we're dealing with, so I think we gotta just reassess the whole idea of having a limit on these vehicles.
Okay. I will
See what
come
those other
back.
people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, see what the other
I'm all for this.
And this might be something, this one might be a little bit more research where it may not get on to the next public hearing for our zoning text amendment, because this is a bigger one. You know, doing the research and.
Well,
just
it affects
something.
a good portion of the community, so.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but yeah,
Before-
thank you for that
Jack,
direction.
before we go too far, can you go back to E? We didn't finish that one there. This is about sale of
Sale and
vehicles.
selling.
I thought this, I'm not sure, and I'm gonna have to ask staff, because this is what our code allows right now anyways.
I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay,
Yeah, that's,
I don't have any issue with it, but. All right,
all right, next page. Again, just adding mixed-use district, and this has to do with exterior storage, about exterior storage being prohibited in the mixed-use district.
And exterior storage is defined as,
Any type, in the mixed-use district, I don't see any type of businesses that would have exterior storage. I guess this would be, when I think of exterior storage, I think of maybe Northway Sports or, you know, construction
lots.
company or car lots or anything like that. I mean, I see this more as for
what if you
residential.
had like a hardware store, it's got outdoor garden equipment they sell in a fenced-in area?
Absolutely, right.
So that, I would
So-
think that would be allowed in a mixed-use
Yes,
district.
yep,
So
yep.
I think there's gonna be,
We could do exterior storage as a conditional use permit. Then.
I think we're gonna have to allow it somehow, and I don't know why we prohibit it, because there's gonna be some cases. I understand why we have it, but there's gonna be exceptions, so.
Right, okay. And then next one is just fence regulations, again, boundary fences. Need to add the Coon Lake district and the mixed-use district. And we just require a fence permit, we just like to ensure that the fences are going to be built on their property and not their neighbor's property. So in the past, we have had it where they build on the neighbor's property. So it's just adding those two new districts to that.
On the fences,
Mhm.
and this probably more, actually be really particular to the Coon Lake District. There's also DNR restrictions as well, right?
Yes.
Fences can only go so close to the lake.
Yep,
The-
and then when
they-
if those come in, it happens, we go with the DNR requirements, and there's also times when we have, like Becky Wozni will.
Well, that's
do
why I'm
some
wondering
rules.
if we're talking about fence regulations, you should also have a letter saying that, you know, the DNR may require if you're within so many feet of the lakes, so.
There's a setback and then they can't go within the ordinary high water mark either.
Yeah, and that's in the shoreline regulations.
Right, what I'm saying is, we're talking about fence regulations.
So we can
We
add
should
that
highlight
in.
that fact in here that, because I know there's fences that have been going up around Coon Lake that are not
Okay.
following that at all, so.
Okay, so I'll find that.
I don't know if they're
and-
getting city permits, but.
Okay. So what I'll do is I will find those regulations and we'll do E, and then we'll put in that verbiage in there.
Okay.
I have a question on fences.
Mhm.
There's a house on Coon Lake that brought in 3 feet of dirt and then put a 6-foot fence up. So that makes it a 9-foot fence, sort of.
Oh, they created a berm and then put the fence on
And
top
put
of
the
the
fence
berm?
on top of it? Oh,
So that's okay, but, so if anybody wants a 10-foot fence, all they have to do is bring in 4 feet of dirt? Is that?
I
I
think-
don't think
Except if
that's
they brought in
okay.
dirt in the shoreline district, they probably needed a permit for that, which my guess they didn't get, so.
Permit.
Yeah, yeah, they would need to, yeah.
and they
In those
probably didn't.
instances, we would hire Craig involved just to make sure with the drainage, bringing in the extra fill and.
Yeah, we've had people do that in the past, bring in dirt so they get their signs higher, so.
Oh, yes.
So is there anything you want to add because of that, or are you just bringing that out?
I'm just bringing it up, I think it's wrong personally. So I don't know if we should address it now or if we should just let it go.
You mean address it with the person that did it?
Well, address it in the,
Well, in the code, we would address that at the time that they come in for their permits as well.
But if they never come in for their permit, then it has to be addressed after the fact.
As we do fencing.
Well, the fence is gonna be measured from ground height up, I imagine.
Yes, they do.
Oh, it's right in the next definitions.
Well, on that definition
Fence and
argument,
owner's yard grade to
Yep.
the top of the fence.
I was gonna say argument could be made yard grade.
Yeah, if they put a berm there, that's not the yard grade, so. If they built a little wall and put a fence on top, that's not the yard grade, so in that case, there's probably an argument that the fence doesn't meet regulations, so. With the current language is there, so.
they put in a, build it up and then they put a wall, a brick wall.
Yeah, that's it.
And then it drains onto the neighbors.
Yep.
All the rain.
Well, that right there is not allowed. You can't drain property like that.
Well, and that right there proves that it didn't get a permit, because you would never allow that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
No,
allowed.
this
Craig would
particular,
have to be.
no, this,
I know which one you're talking
this,
about
this,
now.
this property did get a permit and they did follow the grading plan.
Wow.
Hopefully it's a really rare case, so.
All right,
There's
so.
ways to circumvent everything.
So the next page is section 26, lighting regulations at the bottom of the page. B, business industrial lighting standards. We want to add the language saying lighting must be used to eliminate all off-street parking areas. And shall be arranged to defect right away. And we are adding the language of must be, because in the past we've had an issue with a project in the city of East Bethel in which they did not want to provide lighting. And reading this requires you, instead of just saying any lighting used, we're saying lighting must be used. to
Says if
eliminate.
you have lighting, you have to use it this way instead of you have to have lighting.
Yes, yes. So this way ensures that when commercial buildings come in, they do have lit parking lots.
We're requiring downcast, right?
Yes.
All right,
Yep, one is shielding, and then next page two is the intensity of lighting is requiring them that they need to have a minimum of 0.5 foot candle illumination for all off-street parking areas. Again, that comes from a specific project in which the parking lot may or may not be properly lit.
It's dark.
Yes, it's dark. And so just to ensure that, for safety reasons, that the entire parking area is at 0.5 foot candles.
okay.
And then next, section 27, landscape regulations, and end of the page, or bottom of the page, just adding Coon Lake District for new subdivisions that come in.
Okay,
And if we go to the next page, section 27, landscape regulations, C, it's a strike through for townhouse residential, and that's because it's addressed in the previous page on A. So it was just a duplication.
okay.
And then D is eliminating the planned business overlay district and the city center, so we don't have those anymore, in which we changed it for the mixed-use district.
Do you want to talk about landscape yard credit?
I didn't know there was such a thing.
We
I
don't-
know, I was
We
curious
don't
what
need
that
to.
was.
I have it written down.
We don't need to anymore.
Okay.
That was Aaron wondering what a landscape yard credit was.
I just like say, good job, you did a good job. Giving you credit for
You put landscape in.
exquisitely landscaping your yard.
Yeah.
I specifically remember this discussion from back in, what, about 2007?
A landscape yard credit?
No.
So, are we removing that, or?
No, it was just highlighted because Aaron had a question about it.
Are we not removing it?
So we're not removing it, we're just leaving it as is.
So, what would be
Well,
a?
what is it? Well, if we don't know what it is,
I think what the intent was is that if a PUD came in and they had things as different structures
here's a good
or
example.
architectural elements or,
Someone puts in a rain garden.
yeah.
A rain garden's a stormwater. Right, and they plant full of flowers. Now it's landscaping, but at the same time, it's part of the stormwater. You know, that's, so they should get credit for that, for
Mhm.
being part of the
so it's a
landscaping.
monetary credit?
Yes, yeah.
I take it more of, you're just trading off for certain things.
Mhm.
And
Definitely.
it's pretty, to me, it's ambiguous, and it says case-by-case basis, and
Okay.
so
I just didn't know what it was. I'm with Aaron. What is that?
we'll find out when it's ever used. I'm sure someone will tell us.
Somebody will use it.
So the next page, there's nothing. Again, it just had to do with that non-residential uses and we defined that.
Okay.
Next page, section 27, landscape regulations. We're adding a building permit because it is required as part of our building code. That any fence over 4 feet needs to be engineered and it needs a building permit. So it doesn't require a certificate of compliance, it does require a building permit. So just cleaning up that language.
Okay.
And next page is, again, a deleting planned use or the planned business district and the city center, since those don't exist, and adding mixed use.
Okay.
And section 40, here we go, is our general zoning district provisions. For a residential district, adding CL for the Coon Lake Residential District.
Okay.
And adding the mixed-use district, and deleting the planned business overlay and the city center. Then next page, section 44, single-family and townhome residential, deleting fences as permitted in section 25 for certificate of compliance, because they aren't a certificate of compliance, they're a fence permit.
So you're gonna delete that?
Yeah, because it's not a certificate of compliance, it's an actual fence permit that we addressed back in the fence regulations.
So you're just gonna have a A there and nothing else to go with?
Yeah, what we'll probably do is just get rid of A, and then it'll just be certificate of compliance, temporary seasonal sales.
Okay.
All right.
All right, the B1. This one, we have highlighted A and B and just want to make sure that city council still agrees with this. In the B1 districts, we have just a couple of them throughout the city, scattered throughout the city, agreeing that a lot area may not exceed 2 acres in area, and that one B1 district may not be located within 1 mile of another B1 district.
What's the purpose of that?
You know, I'm not really sure. I was trying to think back in the day when we did this, and I think what it was is we don't want any new B1 districts. We want it to be what we have. We just have a couple of them,
Okay,
like the small one in Coon Lake Beach, and
that makes
One.
sense.
so I think that's where it was, just to prohibit the B1s to be popping up everywhere.
Okay,
And then also added in the B1 district, because we already allow tavern bars, and then also allowing tap rooms.
I thought we already did that.
We didn't.
We do it by ordinance?
The brewery and tap room,
Yeah,
our code only allows them in the industrial area.
so it's only allowed in industrial areas now?
Right now it is. Mhm.
I thought we did that. We had an application to come in on law in 65.
Yeah, you did, and then the code was amended.
And we changed it to
allow that.
allow it.
Yep, but only in the industrial area.
The only industrial areas?
Mhm.
Okay. Then I agree with that change.
So in the B2 district, next page, again, L, also adding brewery and tap room to tavern and bars. And next page, section 46, Central Business District. So I believe this may have been something that was accidentally omitted back in the day when we updated the code back in 2007, 8 area. So we didn't have any setbacks at all for the B2 district. So, and so we added those back in. Again, front yard 40 feet.
Well, we must not have built anything there either.
Yeah, and what's really sparked it is we have a couple inquiries of people wanting to build commercial buildings in these areas. And they come and say, you have no setbacks.
So these proposed B2 setbacks are the same as B1?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then highway business district would be adding, under O, adding brewery and tap rooms as well.
Okay.
And then the next page, we have section 47, highway commercial B3 district. In yellow, question, self-service storage facilities. I know this has been discussion with city council. Is this a use that we still want to allow within the B3 district? Right now, the ones that we have talked about have been in B2. And I know there's been discussion amongst city council of, is there too many self-storage facilities in East Bethel as well already?
Yes,
Yeah, I know it's getting
There,
there.
there are.
and they're ugly.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with them is that they're taking up future valuable land for other commercial uses that are more highway needed than a storage facility, so. I mean, if these storage facilities were half mile off the road,
That's one thing.
I think that's a little easier than, put it right at intersections that someday will be a better use, so. So how do you regulate it then?
Right, does city council want to completely delete the use or put it self-service storage? You could put something in there about located certain amount of feet off of the highway. I've seen that too.
What do you think?
I would have no huge issues with deleting it.
I don't have a huge issue with deleting it either.
Do we have to allow it?
No,
So if we delete this, we won't have any more self-storage.
that's correct. Yep.
And if we get a request for it, it can go before
If we get a,
everybody and decide.
if they came to request, it, if you delete it out of here, you can't allow it.
You can't
because
allow
it's
it
a
at all.
prohibited use.
For deleting it.
I'm fine with, I'm fine with not having any more, so.
So,
In the B3 district.
No, they're not allowed in the other districts right now, are they?
No,
No.
B1 and B2, they're not.
No,
Okay.
it's just B3 right now.
That's correct.
question with this is the existing self-storage, if they want to expand, are they still able?
They're legal non-conforming then, right?
They would be legal nonconformings, yeah, and it'd be at the discretion of city council. Like the one that we brought up, just south of the arena, that was a
Gopher,
legal nonconforming, that wasn't allowed to be expanded.
That's right,
but-
that's B2 there, right?
Yeah, but city
Yeah.
council determined that
So there's
it
one,
was okay.
one right off of Sims, I believe, on the west side that just expanded. I know the one off of 241st and 65 are continuing to add buildings.
Yeah,
Well, that's part of their initial plan, though, those inside buildings were
Yeah,
in
so
their
that
initial
was-
plan.
completely approved.
I'm definitely good with deleting this.
Okay, well, let's get rid
And
of
if
it.
sometime in the future, if someone wants to fight it, we can have the discussion then, so.
Oh, we can just as easily add it again, can't we?
Yes, you can.
So,
Okay, that's a good one.
Section 47 Highway Business District. For the side yard, we only had a 10-foot setback in side yard, so we want to add, or 60 feet when abutting a residential district
Buffer.
buffer, yeah.
Good job.
See no issues with that?
And then section 48 light industrial, permitted uses B. So adding tavern and bar. Opposite of the other district, so now it'll be tavern, bar, breweries, and tap rooms.
There's your brewery, your tap room, it ended up in there.
So we're deleting a reference to another section.
Yes,
Yeah, I guess that's redundant.
and then you can ignore the highlighted portion of the exterior storage.
Okay. All right.
And then we move to section 51, which is the Coon Lake Residential District. So pretty much what we did is we took the R1 and the changes that we made to the R1 would be the setbacks.
Everything else is the same except the setback.
Yep. Which setbacks is the side yard changed to 7 feet. Front yard, I believe that changed to front yard 30 feet. Rear yard 25 feet.
Question I have is, why are we including with sewer and water? Why are we making a designation for Coon Lake District when
Do we have sewer and water?
there's no
no.
plan to extend sewer and water out there?
Oh.
If you look above in the lot area, it says with sewer and water and
Well, I
without
know,
sewer and
but
water.
there's nowhere in Coon Lake that has sewer
Oh, I
and
know,
water,
I'm just-
and it won't be there.
Right, and let me take a look at this. I think what had happened is previously, before this new comp plan update, we had it as R1 and we had it with sewer and water and without, so yeah, so we can strike out with the sewer and water.
Because it's never gonna get sewer and water. Well,
Right,
I shouldn't
that's
say
correct.
never, but
It won't
certainly
for-
no
Not in our
plans for it.
lifetime.
there's no plans
And
for it.
when it does, then you do a zoning code amendment and put it in there.
I do have a question on the lot area.
Mhm.
So the minimum lot area is 2 acres.
Yes,
So on Coon Lake Beach, you couldn't build a new house without having 2 acres.
that's correct, yep. Everything that's down there now is legal non-conforming lots.
So, but the
So-
lot, they could build on a lot that's already established.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
they can't create new lots.
Well, what if they do create new lots? Well, if they take.
Well, I think there's only one parcel there that's even big enough to subdivide, right? The farm, the horse farm?
Well, to subdivide, but I'm talking about the existing lots. If you put in Coon Lake Beach, if you take some, 4 of those lots, like certain other residents have, and combine them, so you get rid of, and then can you build on that?
Yes, we do allow that.
Because there's
Okay.
existing lots of
Yes,
record,
yes,
just
because they're-
combining it.
Okay, so we're.
This would be for new lots.
New
so
developments?
new-
We're not there's no subdivision there, what
Right.
you're talking about.
No.
This would
But
be,
that's what I say, there's no
Yeah, I-
subdivision, so that doesn't apply.
But on the
I-
beach, if I bought Brian's lot and Brian bought Chris's lot, and we put those together,
But it's only
You're
one.
not subdividing.
but
and
it's
we're
only-
gonna
you're
crash
combining.
everything down, and we're gonna, if we have 2 acres, can we build one house?
You don't have
absolutely,
to have 2 acres. then.
yeah,
But-
absolutely.
Oh,
Well,
You don't have
that's
to.
what I'm saying,
yeah.
if there's only a half acre lot, can you build a new house?
Yeah.
Yes, you can, because it's a legal non-conforming. These have to do with new development. So if they want to come in and redevelop the area or subdivide the area, they have to meet these requirements. But all those lots around Coon Lake are legal non-conforming lots. And as long as they have area to build, they can build on it and meet the requirements of
I
code.
mean, if you're familiar with Coon Lake Beach, as you come in, there's those 3 houses right north of Maynard Park.
Yes, yep.
Those are all 2 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the setbacks then, you say change the setback side yards down to 7 feet.
Mhm.
Would that be for all new construction then?
Yes, new construction and existing. Yep.
So use an example again, we combine 4 lots. That's the measurements that they would have to meet for setbacks.
Yes.
Okay,
And where the farm is, if they subdivide that all into 2 acres, it's gonna have a 7-foot setback?
They could.
They
Yeah,
could?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
But otherwise, the rest of this is similar as the R1.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Stephanie, this has a ceiling member on it again, on page 48, your page 48 at the top, the detached accessory structure.
Yes, I see that.
You want to redefine that one in there too?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
Okay?
so where are you reading that?
Oh, at the top of page.
Yeah, because it may be in the other districts too. I'll have to take a look.
Oh, yeah, I
and see.
didn't catch it in the other districts. Oh, where is it? It's down by the setbacks.
I don't think we had a text for it.
No, I'll take a look and see.
Detached accessory structure, so yep. Okay, yep. Right above it, we do have building height. Principal structure measured to the eave. Maximum height of 3 stories or 30 feet. So that's
For a house.
for the house, and it's only measured to the eave and not the top of the roof?
Correct.
Okay.
So it could have 3 10-foot stories, basically. So,
Boy, that blocks somebody's view.
Well, when filling out permits in the past, they've asked for building height, and I assumed it was to the top of the roof. So if it's just to the eave, then that makes a difference.
Well, I think didn't it used to be 35 feet to
Yes.
the highest point? And now it's just, you're just changing it to the sidewall, to the eave
Yes.
instead.
Okay,
So it's just measured differently. so.
okay. Just one clarification.
Anything else on these?
Well, that's done, and then the next one is just deleting the planned business overlay district, section 55, so we don't have that anymore. And Planned business or yeah, so those is that. And then on the back page, we have section 56, the plan unit development. And it's not a district, so we're striking out district. And then at the bottom of the page, changing this a little bit, so we have C, that said a PUD may be applied to, and we had listed all the districts. And then we're just gonna put any business or residential zoning district. D, PUD is required in the mixed-use district. And then getting rid of E, says a PUD is not permitted in R1, R2, RR, and A districts. And getting rid of this because we've already allowed PUDs in the residential districts.
Okay.
in East Bethel. So just some cleanup. So for now, that's it for the zoning text amendments. And now I ask council to give staff some direction on which properties to consider for the Coon Lake residential district around Coon Lake. We need some direction tonight. So right now, I'm planning on having the public hearing for the zoning text amendment on the 28th of September. We need the public hearing notices out on the 13th. So it's crucial that we know what properties to send these to, because we'll have to get those guys, each of them, the notice, because their property would be changed, rezoned.
So when we send out the notices this time,
Mm-hmm.
are we gonna include a map,
Yes,
a detailed map like this?
yes,
Okay,
yeah, a close-up,
so people know what they're looking at?
correct.
Okay. That was the confusion last time,
Mhm.
or part of the confusion.
Yeah, so we've had GIS get us some maps that, and then we'll make sure we send them out in the public hearing notice as well.
So they're designated R1 right now,
Yes,
which are all these orange ones.
so we could start out in the Coon Lake Beach area. How to define that zoning area.
Well, I don't know how to practically do this. We still have a few more couple more things we wanna get through. Do we wanna just mark this up and give this to you?
That would be great. Mhm.
And then we can just give it, you want to do it tonight before we leave, or?
Or
some other time?
sometime by the end of the week.
Yeah, and then send it out again, and then we can all look at it again.
How about
So-
by the end of the week, because then I could get something done and then out to you guys for the weekend
So we can have something for Monday's meeting?
to take a look at.
Can we do that for Monday's meeting?
Yeah.
Have a compiled map?
Yep.
Then we can detail it out, because you need it out by the 13th, which is Monday.
Which is Monday.
Mhm.
How you gonna
Tuesday
get it out?
morning.
Yeah.
Tuesday
Huh?
morning, we need it done.
Okay,
Talking about the notice going to the paper,
Yeah.
that has to be in by Wednesday,
Oh, Wednesday now?
Wednesday 10 a.m.
Oh, Wednesday, 10 a.m.
So, yeah, Wednesday,
So we have time.
So, yeah, definitely. Well, that's
Yeah.
way better.
So exactly what do you want us to do?
So what we need to do now is determine what properties along Coon Lake are gonna be considered the Coon Lake residential district.
And I-
So we're gonna be changing the zoning of
Yeah.
them.
And I think a good illustration of this too, we've talked about the smaller lots in this. Everything in the Coon Lake Beach area is essentially going to be the smaller lots, but it's a lot of properties on the north side of the lake. Along East Front Boulevard, you can see these are consisting all of smaller lots. You go one tier back over and you get to the larger lots. Is it a consideration that everything kind of south of Viking Boulevard be in this, or is it those lots that are less than 2 acres, are they gonna be excluded?
I kind of think that'd be the intention, anything less than 2 acres. It's meant to be for more high density.
well, with what's marked as R1 right now, there's, some of these parcels are obviously bigger parcels.
Yep.
That can be divided, but they're gonna follow the R1 zoning anyway, right? So the basic change with the Coon Lake Residential District is the setbacks.
That's
Correct.
correct, yes.
So
Yep.
it's just the setback numbers,
Mhm.
so,
That's better for them, right?
Right.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
10 feet, now
Yeah,
it's
it's,
Now it'll be 7.
7 feet.
So that nobody should complain.
It almost looks like everything on the south of Viking, north of the lake. What are these properties here? I am not familiar with what this is right here.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually, that's the campground.
Oh, that's the campground,
Oh, this-
okay.
I'm sorry, this is the no, this is the campground right
Okay.
here.
here's,
So all of this
So
is
that's
small,
developable,
yeah.
that's not, I mean, these are 2 acres already, so I don't know why, like Katie's Way. What, you know, why include Katie's Way in there when they're already 2-acre lots?
Right.
So it's like, oh, it's almost everything along the shoreline.
Yeah,
That's really what we're looking at, and then down here. I have to go drive it again.
well, you got a few days.
I got a couple
So-
days.
We'll mark, each of us mark it up
I got
and
homework.
let Tim know too, and Tim can do it.
When did you want these in by, again?
Friday.
Friday? Okay.
So that way we have,
The earlier better.
yeah, the earliest would
Thursday.
be better, because then that way I can have GIS make the maps for
Yeah,
me.
let's say,
Thursday, because Friday we'll be at a golf tournament
yeah, we're
anyway,
on,
so
it's almost be gone all
Tim,
day.
you and I will be gone, and
All right,
tomorrow.
So as soon as you can, I would appreciate it.
sooner the better.
Okay.
Okay, is that,
That is
Complete.
good. Thank you for.
so what's, aside from what we just talked about, we're gonna see another version of these changes?
We can, yeah, or, because I was planning on having the public hearing on September 28th
At planning,
at planning.
okay.
And then it'd go to city council on the
Do you
14th
wanna
of
see
October.
changes again before it goes to planning?
I guess just some of the.
Just the fencing one and the,
Some of the ones that we just requested rework the language, I guess. So it's a lot of
Have
those
before,
minor,
can you do that for Monday even? Get those word changes in?
yeah,
We can try,
a lot of the minor stuff.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah, not the minors, this is
not the
the
mixed
fencing,
use and the,
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right,
fencing and parking, those were the two big ones we talked about.
well, the 5
Five vehicle
though,
one, yeah, that's the
bigger
parking one.
You're not gonna be able to get that resolved by Monday, I don't
No,
think, but-
that's one I
That's
think
one
is
we'll
gonna
just
be
leave
a
alone for a
different.
while.
Yeah, will be a
Well, it's
different.
part of this, we need to get that resolved before, we need to get it resolved before it publishes, we don't need it before it publishes, just before,
No, and we don't even need to, we
before the
could,
meeting packet.
right, and we could still, even with the parking area, we could leave it as is now and do research and come back as a zoning text amendment.
I think we need to make that change, cause from,
Okay.
My guess, from a public hearing standpoint, cause that affects most of the people.
Definitely.
That's the one we'll
That's one
probably
you're gonna
get
hear.
most comment from.
Yes,
I would think, so, getting it right the first time, I think it'd probably be good, so.
okay,
Cause I know there was some discussion on social media when the newsletter went out about the whole 5 vehicle parking, and there's a lot of
Not
people
happy
not happy
people.
with it, so. And I didn't dare say, it's been there for like 15 years, this is not new, so.
and also that's about the 4th time that very same article is running in the
Oh, I
newsletter.
know,
Yeah.
it happens
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time we publish that article
It
too,
came up,
so.
it came up on two different
Yeah.
Facebook pages, and it came up on the next door site.
But
too.
even like 2 years ago, when we
Yeah.
published the same
Yeah.
article, we
Yeah.
had the same responses, so it'd be nice to get that all fixed at
Yeah.
once, so.
okay.
Okay,
Oh, I bet.
on to, we got 3 minutes. So
3 minutes.
Code, yeah, work meetings, we try to keep it to 2 hours, so.
I
Code
can fly
enforcement
through-
report.
I can fly through my report. So all appliance, city staff and the fire chief, building official, we all went out and we took a look at the property. Staff, we schedule ongoing site inspections with the property owner, and he is continuing to clean up the property. So during each site visit, we set another set of expectations for the next inspection. And so our next inspection for him is the end of October. He's got some more cleanup that he has to do. He's done significant process on the property. I mean, you drive by and there's still quite a bit of stuff there, but he's
There's
gotten
a
rid of.
road though, you can see in it.
Yes, and he's gotten rid of probably 50% of the stuff
Yeah,
right
if
now.
he-
So he continues to make progress and he's working really well with staff and the fire department. So we're just gonna continue working with him the way we are and,
Very good.
yeah, he's doing really well. Another man's treasure, everything is okay there, except they still have the, the issue of removing the tanks that are underground. So I spoke with the fire chief. He is going to be sending out a letter tomorrow to the property owner. He has the letter drafted, and I'm sure city council will hear about this. The letter will say that property owner needs to provide documentation that the tanks have been either abandoned or removed. And if they cannot, then the fire chief will start a process of setting it up to make sure that they are abandoned or removed, so.
So they had, the property owners haven't contacted you at all?
No.
Because I had a discussion with the property owners about those tanks,
Okay,
and they made the statement that they upgraded those tanks relatively recently, like within the last 10 years.
all right,
So I told them that you gotta talk to staff about it, so,
yeah, yeah. So they'll be working with the fire chief on that one.
all right.
What would be the definition of an abandoned tank?
Filling it,
Not used within a year.
yeah,
Well, yes, but
and
you're
they have
saying-
to fill it with sand, rather than doing the removal, they have to fill it with sand, the
You
fire
can't fill
chief
them
was
anymore, you gotta
saying.
pull them.
Oh, okay,
You can't fill it with sand, so.
completely pull
Really?
'em.
Hmm.
because Stephanie said abandoned or removed.
Yeah.
So I was curious as to
What the
what-
difference, so now they'll have to be
They'll have to be
completely
removed.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
The South End Auto Dealer, this is an ongoing issue. We sent them letters again. So they're really good at, we send them a letter, they clean up their property within a week or two, and then a few weeks later, they have salvage and junk vehicles there again. So the last time we were out there, August 17th, we sent them a letter addressing the issues. By the 26th, they had all their junk vehicles out of there.
Well,
And
they're
then-
back again.
Yeah, well, I was told today by staff that there are vehicles again being dismantled in the parking lot as of today. So at this point, staff's unsure what to do. I mean, do we start sending citations? You know, that the lot is supposed to be used as a car dealership, not for salvage and junk yard,
take-
as
Make
as
it
what it
stop.
is. Our definition, how they're using it, is defined as a junk salvage yard right now.
And that's not allowed.
It's not allowed. It is a legal, non-conforming car
Car
lot.
lot.
With
What is
the-
cease and desist? What do you have to do for cease and desist?
They just have to completely quit their operations there.
No, what do we have to do to make them cease and
Oh,
desist?
it's,
It's a legal action?
yes, yes.
When staff first met with them and they cleaned up, the staff, I assume, gave them a letter citing violations.
Yes, they get letters.
In that letter, did it state that the fines could be sent out?
Yes,
Okay, so they do have a warning already.
they do,
that-
yes, yes. And we've spoke with the property owner and the business owner. They're two different people, so.
Well, I guess at this point, they already know, they should know better. Send out a administrative citation. That'd be my opinion. We could give them one more chance.
No more chances.
No
No
more
more
chance?
chances.
Okay.
This has been going on longer than
This
you
has been
think.
going on since
Years.
I came to the city. It
Years.
was one thing
know,
I
know.
complained about. It's the first thing you see when you come in the city.
Well, yeah, so.
All right. Next one is we have the PVS. I've been working with Vera on that, the property owner. At this time, they've actually cleaned out the lot quite a bit. They have gotten rid of all their inoperable vehicles and the inoperable semi-trailers. Some of them were broken down. They aren't doing automotive work out in their parking lot anymore. I spoke with her today. They hired a maintenance supervisor finally, like a site maintenance supervisor that just started last week. And she said by the end of the week, all the weeds will be mowed down and they'll remain mowed down now. And then I'm also meeting with her on site next Wednesday to start going over the buildings on site that need to be repaired. So as now too, they've been taking their semi-trailers and they have been organizing them on the back, property line rather than having them all over the property. So I'm continuing to work with them just to bring them in compliance with the original CUP.
Okay.
Good job, Stephanie.
Universal trucking, that one can be closed out. We don't have any more issues with that one. And then we have Gail Murphy, where the affidavit has now been submitted to the city attorney for review and approval. And once he approves that, the affidavit will be issued for the property.
Do you know when that's gonna happen? Because we've been talking about that for months.
Chris has it now, he's reviewing it for content, when he gets it back, when it's approved, and we will file it with the court.
Okay.
With this as well, if the court passes it, will we still go ahead with the plan of using an independent inspector along with one of our inspectors?
If that were the option of the property owner, we would still make that offer.
I think we should keep going with that plan as so that,
Can she fight this too, or is this gonna be a done thing?
Well, if the court issues the administrative search warrant, she could attempt to get another injunction, but she applied for an injunction and temporary relief from that. There was a hearing that was conducted at the end of June, and the court ruled that there was no basis for it. So what she can do legally from here on, I'd be hesitant to speculate on that. I'm not an attorney, but I'm sure she could probably try to seek another injunction. I don't know if the courts would grant it, though.
but I think we should use an independent inspector just so.
And that,
Oh,
that.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
we approved that long
Yeah,
time ago.
that was the offer that we made to them back in February to try to get voluntary compliance on this,
Yeah,
so.
I think we still should use one.
All right. Is there anything else on compliance report?
No.
Code enforcement, I should say. All right, item 5, Highway 65 Viking Boulevard intersection study. You want to present it?
We can go over this briefly. There's not a lot to present, but there's a lot in the report that was in your packet. Mayor Voss and I attended a virtual meeting on August the 30th with MnDOT to review a study that they had commissioned by an independent consultant to look at the issues that were still outstanding at the intersection of Highway 22 and 65. It's the new RCI. This has been prompted by the city since the opening of the intersection. We've looked at this, and Mayor Voss has spearheaded really this action to get MnDOT to look at some deficiencies in the intersection. Most of them involve sightline issues, some grade issues at 22 and 65. Issues with the signal lights in terms of their placement, and sometimes, and depending on where you're coming from, if you're looking at the signal light in front of you, there's one directly across the street that can be very confusing to do things, reduce redundant signage. And they came up with several recommendations. One was to put extra visors or hoods on the lights to minimize things, to reduce redundant signage. And they did come up with some alternatives on what they proposed to do. Let me just go over these really quickly. There's a lot of data in here. A lot of it relates to traffic signalization. But their initial proposal is to consider putting in acceleration or bypass lanes. So if you're traveling east on Viking Boulevard, there would be an acceleration or bypass lane that you would get on. There would be a median here between the bypass lane and the travel lanes that would extend beyond where the U-turn is, so you couldn't use this to make a turn at the J-hook. The same way on the westbound, the cost of these would be approximately $1.5 million. MnDOT's still looking at that. The issues that we had and presented to them were mainly those of the sightline issues that occur at this corner of the intersection. There's a signal cabinet, guardrail, a light pole, plus the fact that everything below these stop bars are significantly below grade of Highway 65. The only way you can see is if you pull up a little bit beyond this, and still there's some impediments in your sight line. You're trying to judge distances on cars that are traveling 70 miles an hour. The same thing exists on the other side of the intersection over here too, with the same components: guardrail, traffic control panel, and a light pole. So what MnDOT was looking for was some comments from City Council on what we thought were some additional measures that could be taken. We've emphasized our issues with the sight lines on every meeting. They haven't promised a timetable on that. They did say that they were going to do some minor things, the sign reduction of those signs that were redundant, try to work on some of those traffic lights that pose some issues that are a little confusing to drivers at the intersection. But we haven't gotten any commitment yet on the sightline issues from them. To me, I think that's one of the critical components of this intersection that are causing many of our problems. We also talked to them about currently there is no right on red. That was one of the key design components of this intersection, to keep queues from forming up long distances on 22 and keep traffic flowing smoother, and also give longer signalization time on north-south traffic on Highway 65. So those are the main things that we discussed, and they were requesting if we had any additional comments to get back to them on this matter. So if I've left anything out, Steve, please feel free to fill in.
Yeah, I guess three main things. One he didn't mention is the consultant's recommendation to MnDOT was that the no turn on red signs remain. And so that in a way affects their, I guess, judgment on whether they address the sightline issues. And the consultant and MnDOT really didn't say a lot of opinion. It was really a consultant talking about the cost that'd be involved to move those signal boxes. And I just kind of emphasized the fact that while that may be true, that's a design flaw. It's like, I don't know how you didn't think those were going to be, you put these big boxes right in the way where you're going to see, you know.
But it says in there that they didn't put it where it was supposed to be on the original plans either.
No, no, the plan was drawn wrong. That was the problem.
Oh, the plan
They
was
should have
drawn
been at the opposite corner. In my mind, it should be at the opposite corners, so you're not looking through those things. But so that was one aspect of it, and I think why this alternative is on the screen is what the consultant's recommending, and what it does is the two lanes that are going to go into the J turn, like they are right now, that they will be J turn only. And then this new lane, Jack called it acceleration lane. It's actually a dedicated lane for turning onto, in this case, northbound 65, or from the west to be onto southbound 65. So it'll be a lane, an actual new lane. You're not merging the traffic. You know, you will eventually after 1,000 feet, whatever it is. And then they'll also have barriers so people can't jump over into the J turns. So you're locked into 65.
Are the barriers short barriers, or are they tall?
Well, I think it's
'Cause if
a
they're
medium
tall-
barrier. It's a curb barrier.
It'll be
A
Physical
curb is
barrier.
okay.
Yeah, physical. They can get the details, but it'd be some
They
means
put one
to
of those concrete
benefit
buckets.
traffic from crossing over, so.
Yeah.
And,
But
and meaning it'll go as far as the J-turn,
Yeah.
so they
And
can't get
so
to.
essentially, those new lanes would give, say, the freedom to go right on red.
Yep, yep, because they don't have to stop, because
Yeah.
they actually don't even have to stop, because there'll be a dedicated lane. And to their point, it's far more important for the eastbound traffic going south in the morning, because there's a lot more traffic
Yeah.
than people going west and going north on
North.
65, which is, the numbers are in the report somehow. You know, so they talked about that. But they also said that that's not a need they have right now based on traffic flow. So
It's not a
it
priority,
was
is
kind
what
of a
you're
frustrating
saying?
call from the fact that they weren't really clear on how they were gonna improve this whole situation, other than tweaking signs and doing little things, so. Yeah, so they wanted our feedback, the city's feedback, by the end of this week, I think it was. Cause I think they're gonna start publishing it next week, so. So, we can come up with something now, you can bring, provide comments to Jack, and we'll just send them just as comments from the council. So I don't know how, we can't decide anything tonight anyway, but I think probably best, the report's complicated, to read through. But if you wanna provide Jack comments to the report and what we wanna go back to MinDOT, I think you just list them as council, comments from the council, so.
And if we want to, I talked to Jennifer Wilchin today, and I told her we would discuss this. I said I wasn't exactly sure when we could get the comments, and she said that we could even discuss those at the council meeting on the 13th and get them to them after then if we wanted to do that.
Well, and they did say they're willing to come before council
Yes.
too, so.
And she emphasized that
Yeah,
today.
so on a call, I said, not sure whether we wanted to do that or not, so, so it's really up to us whether we want to have MinDOT make a presentation. It's gonna be fairly technical, so we just
Is
gotta
it
make.
gonna add anything to, other than what we've got in the report?
Well, I mean, I think the best thing is they would hear our comments directly,
That's
from
true.
all the council members, rather than a written thing. I kinda laid out my comments on the call, so I was kinda disappointed with the way they're dealing with the sightline issue, but my gut feeling is if they're gonna keep the no turn on red, which I don't think they're totally bought into yet, but they're gonna keep that, then why spend the money to fix the sightline issues, cause you
Yeah.
can't turn anyway, so I think that's where they're going with it, but.
Well, and that's, if that's, makes sense, if that's what they're recommending.
Well, but even if they don't change anything right now and just, tweak some of the signs, part of it is there's too many signs, they're gonna remove some signs that are redundant, try to make it simpler and easier to follow. Adjust the levels of some signs, some of the lights they're gonna put louvers on, cause if you're
They're
looking
gonna
through
move
the
'em to the
intersection, you can see the
center.
other light turn green and you get confused, so they're gonna put louvers, so there's little things like that. But it's whether or not they keep that no turn on red, so. And for whatever reason, they focus on a compliance factor of people complying with no turn on red. I don't know what that means, but they focus on that, so. I told them I didn't think it meant anything to us, but we expect people to obey signs, but.
Well, they said nobody did. When you read it, it said nobody did, and the 2 times they sat there, there were X amount of
Oh, I
people
know.
who
Yeah,
didn't follow
they
it.
contradicted themselves
Yeah.
in the report.
Yeah, so do we want MinDOT to make, was Jennifer willing to come next Monday?
Yes.
Do we want MinDOT here next Monday to talk to them directly on this?
We could, I don't know if we need a big technical presentation, more of just,
I'd want just Jennifer making a
discussion?
presentation. I don't know if we want the consultant here, it'll get way too
Yeah.
detailed, but if she
Yeah.
can do a high level and have a discussion, I think it'd be worthwhile.
just, have a discussion, maybe go over some of the results and
Okay.
so it's, maybe a 15-minute.
Doing the presentations is work with her to have it concise and
All right.
just hit the high points, and that way we can ask questions, so. And I think they've got she said they had a better graphic of this alternative too, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
So hopefully they can produce one, so.
the concept's pretty easy to follow, but yeah.
Yep. Okay, anything else? Okay,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Good night.
Hey, Jack, I have a question.
yeah.
What was that email about? All they got is,
No.